A few days ago, you were trending on Twitter.
Yep.
Some people didn't like that you were wearing pink and ebony, and they felt like it wasn't masculine enough.
Yeah.
What do you say to those? I mean, I think they're haters. I think it's toxic.
But it's bigger than that. It's love. It's like there's strength and there's vulnerability. A big part of it is kindness, use of power.
Yeah.
Gentleness. These are masculine characteristics.
Now to a developing story. Actor Johnathan Majors arrested today, accused of attacking a woman in a New York City apartment. The woman sustained minor injuries to her head and neck. Majors was then taken into custody but released earlier this evening.
Welcome to the Dark Times channel. Make sure you go ahead and hit that like button for me before I get started. And if you haven't done so already, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button for me as well. Definitely appreciate it, and it helps the channel grow. And so let's go ahead and get into it. And so this isn't going to be one of my longer videos, but I definitely wanted to take a second to chime in on actor Johnathan Majors. And recently, Johnathan Majors has been in the news because he's co-starring in the film Creed 3 alongside Michael B. Jordan. And he's been taking a lot of flack for his gender fluidity. And I was going to do a video on Johnathan Majors a few weeks ago when everything was going down in regards to his photo shoots and how they had him looking and how he was portrayed. And I decided not to, because I feel like everything that needed to be said had pretty much already been said by various people across the internet. And so I didn't want to beat a dead horse. And so this time, Johnathan Majors is going to find himself in the public eye, not for any up-and-coming films that he's going to be in, but because he was arrested the other night. He was arrested on charges of allegedly slapping and choking his girlfriend. And so according to the police report, Mr. Johnathan Majors was taken into custody by police officers who were responding to a 911 call. The New York Police Department said in a statement that Majors was involved in a domestic dispute with a 30-year-old woman who told police that she was assaulted.
I speak badly. He was so big. He's so black.
Johnathan Majors' lawyer maintains that her client is completely innocent and probably the victim of an altercation with a woman that he knows. His lawyer claims that the alleged victim was having an emotional crisis in which she was taken to the hospital, and that Majors did not assault her whatsoever. Majors' team said that they're quickly gathering evidence, including video footage from the vehicle where the episode took place and testimony from witnesses. And so a few hours after this statement from Johnathan Majors' attorney, a few hours after this, his ex-girlfriend, or I'm assuming that it's his ex-girlfriend now, or at least it should be his ex. We'll see how that goes. But a few hours after this statement was released, she took back everything she said that allegedly occurred between her and Johnathan Majors. She said none of that happened. This is a few hours after this statement was made. And so basically a few hours that they came out and said that there's video footage and they have eyewitnesses, all of a sudden the charges are dropped. And we all know that's no coincidence. And when I first heard this story the other day about Johnathan Majors being arrested, I was like, you know what, it's a little soon for him to get his wake-up call. They got a few more millions of dollars to make off Johnathan Majors with all these up-and-coming movies that he's going to be starring in, especially him playing the role of Kang. I know they got at least about 2 or 3 more movies to get out of him on that series alone. And so the fact that he's innocent and the alleged victim recanted her story, that makes very little difference, especially when it comes to Hollywood. It makes very little difference. The damage is already done. It's too late. It's inconsequential of what actually happened. What's important is perception. Perception is reality. There's no amount of pandering that's going to help Mr. Johnathan Majors in this situation. We've seen this play out before. We know how it goes. Some of his advertisements are already pulled. Here's a statement from the U.S. military. While Mr. Majors is innocent until proven guilty, prudence dictates that we pull all our ads until the investigation into these allegations is complete. Whether he actually did what's to have allegedly occurred in that taxi cab, like I said, it's of very little consequence. Like I said, this is a man that's bent over backwards, allegedly. And Johnathan Majors is one of those Hollywood actors that didn't even really have to be buck broken. He comes across like he volunteered. He signed up to be buck broken. You know, a lot of times you can see these different actors doing stuff or being involved in films or photo shoots that you can tell they really don't want to be there, but they're doing it to go along, to get along. But Johnathan Majors seems like he's all about it. He's about that action. Somebody that had no problem with looking effeminate in photo shoots and magazine covers. Somebody that had no issue at all with that. You know, the problem with actors like Johnathan Majors is they don't know that their skin is their sin. You know, once they make it to that Hollywood status and that elite Hollywood status, they fall under that I'm not black, I'm OJ mentality. And they feel like the rules that may apply to the so-called black man and the so-called black woman are no longer applicable to them. That they're somehow above this proverbial law that exists within the dominant society.
Well, I'm not black, I'm OJ.
And so somebody like that was bound to get their wake-up call, you know, sooner or later. And in his case, he definitely got it a lot sooner than I expected. And so it's hard to feel sorry for somebody like Johnathan Majors. You know, if you don't know by now, somebody like that is never gonna know. I definitely didn't think that Johnathan Majors was gonna get his wake-up call this soon. I thought it was gonna be a little bit further down the line, you know, after they made their money off of him. And after his proverbial star within Hollywood had kind of burnt out, so to speak, you know, as they usually do. And this is the excuse they needed. Nobody leaves Hollywood unscathed. Whether it be Will Smith, Bill Cosby, or whatever the case may be, nobody leaves clean. So there's no amount of pandering and pursing your lips and putting on lipstick is gonna save him from this situation. And I'm not saying his career is over, but it's definitely gonna be on a whole nother trajectory. You know, he was on pace to probably be an A-list actor within Hollywood. You know, he was probably 2 or 3 good films away from being on that A-list status. And so I definitely think that this is going to leave a mark on his career and definitely going to leave a stain on his legacy, whether it's now or whether it's in the future. You know, incidents like this is what keeps certain people from getting Oscars and different accolades and awards. You know, we can't give an Oscar to him because of his domestic abuse situation. You know, they're always going to find a way to be able to exclude somebody like Johnathan Majors based on something that may or may not have even occurred. And so that's all I had for this one. Like I said earlier, this wasn't going to be a very long video, but I wanted to take a second to go ahead and chime in. But definitely let me know what y'all think in the comments section. And as usual, peace and chaos.